training will be on running your BAS Return and how to basically set it up. Now, how to find your BAS Return is if you click on Accounts on your left-hand side of the screen. It should be your first one. Click on Accounts. You'll be able to see your BAS or BAS Return. Okay, so let's go ahead and click on that. Now here, before we actually run a return, we need to make sure that we define every single one of these buttons that you see here, okay? Now these are the different tax codes within your system, within True ERP. So if we were to click on G1, for instance, you would see a predefined set of tax codes that are used. Now mind you, these particular tax codes come preloaded with True ERP. The ones that are actually predefined normally fit about 99% of the businesses. But again, if you'd like to change what is actually already predefined, very simple. If you hold down your control button, you'll be able to highlight or select which tax codes you would like to use for that particular selection that you chose. Okay, so once you choose the particular tax codes that you would like to use, then you would just go ahead and click on OK. Now you would do this and you would go through every single one of these lines here and define every single one of these buttons. Okay, so again, once you click on it, go ahead and choose which tax code you'd like to use. Now if you're not sure as to which tax code you'd like to use, or which is the best tax code for your company, I would definitely get some guidance from your accountant or your tax preparer, because of the fact that even though we do suggest the best tax codes or we do have them predefined, you want to make sure that your accounting department or your tax preparer understands or also agrees with your selections. Okay, so again, once you choose your tax codes by holding down control, you can click OK. Alright, or if you'd like to deselect, again hold down control and unselect your tax codes, just like so. Again, you want to go through every single one of these lines here and choose the most appropriate tax code for those lines. You want to do that also for your tax and amounts withheld. You want to go through these as well and make sure that you choose the correct ones. Now mind you, whenever you're choosing here, you're actually choosing from your expenses. You are not choosing from your liability accounts, if that makes any sense. Now let me just give you a quick example of that. Again, these are all your expense account names here. They should not be your liability accounts. Again, we have these preloaded, but you want to make sure that you talk to your accountant, okay? Now, to give you an example, and one most common mistake that a lot of people make is when they choose their payroll accounts, okay? In this case, let's go ahead and follow me to your utilities, preferences, and click on payroll. Okay, and then we're just going to go scroll towards the bottom, and here, whenever they're choosing their accounts for payroll, you have to remember that there are two different accounts. Okay, so the first are your expense accounts. Again, these are preloaded. We recommend don't change them until you understand how True ERP works, as well as until you actually gain some guidance regarding which accounts you want to use. Okay, so with your BAS Return, you typically only choose your expense accounts. For instance, gross wages, this is your expense. Same thing here with your deduction paid, it's an expense account. Now your liability accounts are a whole separate thing. Again, whenever you're choosing your deductions, these go into your liabilities, and so on and so forth. So again, let's just cancel out of here, click back to accounts, go back to our BAS return or BAS return, and if we're here, you want to make sure that you choose just your expense accounts. Don't make that mistake and accidentally choose your liability accounts. Okay? Again, as I mentioned to you earlier, these are already preset. If you choose to make any changes, same thing goes here. You want to hold down your control, select, or deselect, just like so. All right, so we're going to go ahead and close that out. Okay, so let's go back to the first page here. Once you have all these buttons defined, you do not need to make any changes afterwards. So again, you only set these up typically only one time and you leave them. You don't need to make any changes, okay? Now, after you have these defined, you also have an options button right here. You can go ahead and click on these options button, and here you'll be able to choose a department. So in this case I have all my departments, but if I want to unclick that or uncheck that, here now you can choose which department you would like to run your BAS return. In this case we're going to go ahead and just choose all, and then you also have your accounting method. In this case I have it set up as accrual. You can choose cash if you choose to do so, okay? Once you have this set up, go ahead and click on OK. Now it's time for us to go ahead and run our BAS return. First, you want to choose a description or change your description. They come preloaded based on the options that you have here, but again, we want to go ahead and set a description. So I'd like to go ahead and say quarterly from Jan 2014. Okay, here I'm going to choose quarterly. I'm going to choose the beginning of January, and the current year is 2014. And from here, all you would need to do is go ahead and click on refresh. And here is your BAS return. So really, really simple. Again, once you have everything set up, you don't need to change these buttons. You don't need to typically change your options. You just need to go ahead and make your selections here, right here, as well as here, and then your description, and then click on refresh. And all your values are now ready to be submitted to your accountant. Now here you can print if you'd like to do so, and it's actually going to pop open a little template that again you can go ahead and customize or change. So we'll go ahead and close that. If you want to return to that your BAS return, really simply go to your BAS return list right in the bottom, and here you'll be able to find that recent BAS return that you did, and again go ahead and just double click, and it's going to bring you back to that original BAS return. Now if you'd like to know what actually makes up these values, really simple. Once again, you would double click and it brings you to the details, and it shows you exactly what brings up those values. Again, if you'd like to know, once again double click and it brings you to exactly what makes up that value. So really great stuff here. Okay, now last but not least, we're going to go ahead and cancel this out. There's one last thing that you guys just need to make sure of whenever you're running your BAS return, and we're going to close all that out. Go to your reports, you're going to click on accounts, and you want to scroll down until you see your tax summary and double click. Once you're in your tax summary report, you want to make sure that your funds are not commingled, or your taxes are not commingled. What I mean by that is if you have your purchases as 0, you should have within your sales a value there, and vice versa. So again, sales, if they were on 0, your purchases would have a value. They would not both be filled out. Okay, if you did see a value under purchases and sales, you want to double click on that, find what makes up that value, and make that correction, because again, that is incorrect. You want to make sure that these two corners or these two sections here are not commingled. So again, with your purchases, if they're at 0, you should have something in sales, and within your sales, you should have something in your purchases. Okay, so after you've done and you've made sure of that, then you are ready to run your BAS return. That basically is your training for your BAS return. Thank you so much for watching, and have a great day.